I will be a Pokemon Master! Pokemon Master!
My number 3 least favorite character is Ash Ketchum from Pokemon. Now, you may agree or disagree with the entries on this list, but I don't think I'm going to hear any complaint on this one. Ash Ketchum is a whiny, useless little jock itch, and he's a terrible contender for either the title of Pokemon Master or the achievement of catching them all. In the 15 years that we've been watching him, he's only owned around 50 different Pokemon. On top of that, he couldn't figure out the GS ball. He never went back for Pidgeot after promising to return for him. And he's been 10 years old for almost as long as Bart Simpson. This show would have been a lot better, and I will argue this, if Gary had been the main character. He catches a lot more Pokemon. He's earned 2 extra badges. He actually had some character arc we never got to see. He rides around in a convertible with cheerleaders. I want to see this. Even when I was a kid, when he and Ash met up at the beginning of the Orange Islands, I wanted to switch perspectives over to him. His Eevee even kicked Pikachu's ass. Anyway, my frustration with this charity case only got stronger as I got older, and that's not something I can say about a lot of characters. I'm only putting him at number 3 because Pokemon was a huge part of my childhood, and if I dare give him a lower number, my nostalgia goggles will tighten and kill me. These days, he's not so much a character as he is a promotional vehicle for the new starters of every generation. I really wish that coma theory wasn't complete BS.
So go ahead and cry if you need to. There's no shame in crying when there's good reason.
My number 3 favorite character is D from Vampire Hunter D. Okay, so this is going to be a difficult one. And I'm not saying that because the character in question is one of the most complex and deep characters I've ever seen. Actually, it's the exact opposite problem. As he's portrayed in the anime adaptation, D is probably one of the biggest Mary Sue characters in anime history. See, I've always used a term called emo-fabulous to describe any character that a lonely 14-year-old would adopt as their lone wolf idol. Dark and goth-looking, tough loner badasses who make them feel better about the fact they don't have any friends. For comic book fans, this term would refer to Wolverine. For wrestling fans, this term would refer to The Undertaker. And for anime, D fits the bill better than either of them. So why would I rank such an underwhelming character so high on my list? Well, it's because I was 14-year-old once too, and D was my emo-fabulous idol. I'm not proud of it, but I could sit and watch either of the Vampire Hunter D movies any day of the week, as he slices his way through all of those poorly adapted antagonists without blinking an eye. There's nothing complex about him. He's the tall, dark stranger who rides a mechanical horse, and apparently is borderline immortal. But what can I say? Nostalgia, once again, is a hard thing to argue with.
Run as fast as you can, people of the sky. This is Skypia's last dance. A party of angels dancing in the sky.
My number 2 pick for worst character is probably gonna get some backlash. It's Sky God Naru from One Piece. Let me explain. Would you like Darth Vader if his lightsaber couldn't cut through flesh? If when he tried to cut Luke's hand off, he just kind of grazed it? Would you like Wolverine if his claws couldn't cut through human flesh? I sure as hell wouldn't. When a story tells me I should be intimidated by a character, I want to know they at least have the ability to kill someone. If that's the context we're going with. And Naru, the god of Skypiea, is considered so intimidating that his entire civilization is afraid to speak ill of him. Because when he shoots laser cannons down on you from the heavens, it can kill you, right? Nope, no it can't. He can burn through 8 feet of solid stone, but the human body standing on top of that floor remains pretty much in one piece, albeit in need of a little rest. The people he electrocutes directly need a bit more time to recover, and when he shoots a bolt of electricity directly into your brain, you'll wake up with a minor headache. Take a few aspirin tablets and call me in the morning with a better anime. I couldn't stop yelling, "Are you..." I'm not going to swear here. "Are you F..." I'm going to borrow from RoboDerp. "Are you frickin' kidding me?" at this guy every single time one of his victims survived. But hey, I kept telling myself, at least he killed that one old man. At least he's done something remotely threatening. And then, in the final moments of this abortion of a story arc, it is revealed that the old man somehow survived. Never explained. Just thrown in there at the end to make sure nobody's pissed off or upset about it. And I got so angry at this, I had to turn the show off for a few days just to calm myself down before moving on to the next arc. That kind of fury is number 2 on the list. Let's just leave it at that. He's number 2 out of all the characters I've seen of characters that I hate. Moving on.
And neither is the sun. It's just a mass of hydrogen. Get close to it like Cornello claims, and all you'll do is burn up.
My number 2 favorite character, Edward Elric from Full Metal Alchemist. Ed is a skilled young alchemist who showed promise for the field even in his earliest ages. After his father abruptly vanishes, his mother dies soon after, and he tries to resurrect her with tragic consequences for him and his younger brother. He swears to dedicate his life to alchemy so that he can fix the damage that's been done to them, even though he's pretty obviously only concerned about restoring his brother over himself. There are a lot of characters out there who carry pacifistic values into a cold, uncaring world, but among them, I always felt that Edward, in the original anime at least, dealt with it in a much more compelling way than all the rest, as his beliefs are constantly challenged not only by the world around him, but by the actions that he himself is forced to take. He carries his beliefs and his endeavor through some of the darkest situations imaginable, and bravely looks fate itself right in the face before compromising with it, gradually allowing his beliefs to slip by one after the other until nothing is left but the desire to get his brother's body back. He makes sacrifices, he suffers consequences, and well, I don't want to turn this into an FMA versus Brotherhood rant. There's time for that later, or even into a full-fledged review, which will eventually come. So I'll simply say he's one of the most well-written and perfectly explored characters I've ever seen. And yes, the inner fanboy in me loves how much wholesale ass he kicks. He's not a perfect or ideal character. He has his shortcomings, and he'll probably kick my ass if I don't rephrase that. He has his flaws, and for the most part, they're all very relatable. He wins, he loses, and whenever something significant happens to him, you damn well feel it just as powerfully as he does. Yeah, aside from all that writing jibber-jabber, he's really freaking funny to boot. Just don't call him short-tempered. Alright, now before we get to my number 1 least favorite character, let's take a look at some characters that almost made it in.
Oh, it's so nice outside today. The sky is clear, so blue and clear. The sky is clear, so blue and clear. Toast and eggs for breakfast, and my favorite coffee.
My number 1 least favorite character is Saeki Saragi from Blood City. What's worse than an ineffective, incompetent villain? Why, an ineffective, incompetent hero, of course. And they don't get any more ineffective or incompetent than Saya, the latest incarnation of the Blood franchise hero. and she couldn't possibly deserve the title less. For those of you who are familiar with my work, this would come as no surprise to you, as in my first video review, I mentioned very clearly about this character being my least favorite character of all time. Ignoring the obvious fetishes she panders to, like Mega Neko, Clumsy Girl, and Miko, despite her admittedly awesome character design, she is so ridiculously incompetent that she made the show physically painful to watch. Now, much like the narrator from Okami-san, I've discussed his character to death already, so there isn't much I can say about her. In general, a character who can make me scream myself into a sore throat is a character I'm going to despise, and who is pretty much automatically bound for this list. But for those of you who haven't seen my other reviews, I'll offer a brief summary. Her role in the story is to defend her friends and neighbors from terrifying creatures that want to gruesomely devour them, and she's so impossibly bad at it that she only managed to save one person. That's one single solitary person throughout the entire show. That's not counting the people that are carrying monster-repelling talismans. She can transform into her former badass vampire self, but of course she never does this until it's too late. And after each failure, she doesn't even seem to appear depressed about her dead friends that she failed. Yes, I've exhausted myself on discussing this pathetic excuse for a hero. And here's the fun part. She's going to be in another top 10 list at some point in the future. Yay! Christ. I haven't seen the movie, but with the impressions this series left on me, I'm a little reluctant. Now, before we hit my number 1 favorite character, let's take a look at a few that almost made this list.
Where monsters rampage, I'm there to take them down. Where treasure glitters, I'm there to claim it. Where an enemy rises to face me, victory will be mine!
My number 1 favorite character in any anime ever is Lena Inverse from Slayers. Okay, so here's the part about this post that I was dreading, and for 2 reasons. First of all, despite being my all-time favorite character, Lena lost in the death battle that I wrote. I stand behind my decision on that, but I'd be lying if I said there wasn't any lingering guilt. And the second reason, I promised myself before I even started writing this list that I wouldn't gush about anything as shallow as this character is awesome and totally kick-ass. But that's a pretty accurate description of Miss Inverse. It's not all there is to say about her, thankfully, so let's see what I can do here. When it comes to using magic, Lena was a child prodigy just like Ed Elric and Misaka Mikoto. Where she differentiates from them is that instead of taking a heroic or altruistic approach to it, Lena became a traveling mercenary, using her powers to her advantage in order to afford her living expenses. This means taking odd jobs from the towns she visits in order to pay for a meal, and straight up slaughtering bandits in order to steal their loot. WatchMojo.com deserves to die in a fire for adding Light Yagami to their top 10 anime anti-heroes list instead of her. She eventually makes friends and allies, but while she apparently prefers to think of them as useful items, they do wind up changing her and smoothing out her edges just enough over time. The events that she gets dragged into also play a big part in this, as her reluctance to save a town from a rampaging dragon without compensation in episode 1 pales in comparison to her larger world-saving efforts down the road. So the development is there, and while it may not be consistent, it's still a lot of fun to follow. Truth be told, I've designed and played characters based on her in Oblivion, Skyrim, Fallout 3, World of Warcraft, and DC Universe Online. And can you blame me? Lena is so badass. She doesn't just kill dragons, she eats them and loves the taste. One of her attacks is so powerful that if it gets miscast even slightly, if she miscasts it even a little, it would be guaranteed game over for the entire world. It would destroy the world. And yet she chooses not to use it this way, swinging more towards hero than villain overall. And yet she's also terrified of her older sister, so on a sliding scale, how scary would that woman be? She travels the world like Kane from Kung Fu, doling out destruction and plates of eaten food instead of wisdom, and leaving a distinct impression wherever she goes. Now, Slayers is not a very well-written anime. Hell, aside from Season 2, it's downright clunky. But it takes a strong character to keep you coming back to over 100 episodes, several OVAs, and several movies to boot, despite the inconsistent quality of said material. Lena is tough, she's spunky, and I thoroughly enjoy watching her in any kind of media. I own the entire series, all of the movies, and OVAs, and I'm waiting with bated breath for the day that I can finally manage to get my hands on a translated light novel. My plans to avoid gushing like a fanboy didn't go so well, did they? No, they didn't. Oh well. It would take a hell of an awesome character to get me gushing like that, and I guess that's as good an endorsement as I can give. She's not a very deep or complex character, but what can I say? I absolutely love her. I'm the Full Metal Narcissist, and I promise there will be a review next time. See you then. You're welcome.